Hello everyone, welcome back to the Toy Corner. Today we are adding another complete Build-A-Figure set, and while this isn't the first Build-A-Figure that I have done for this collection, for this channel, for myself, it is the first time we will be adding and looking at this many figures. We have seven, the entire line for Colossus from Age of Apocalypse. And with so many colorful characters to look at, what say we get started? First up, we have Magneto, who is usually a villain in the X-Men series. However, in Age of Apocalypse, which is an alternate world, an Elseworld, I'm not sure how the Marvel separates that, but anyway, it's an alternate telling. So here we have some nice artwork, beautiful artwork on the back with a nice little bit to read if you'd like to get caught up on the story there. Other side's kind of the same thing. And of course, we have a lovely bubble window. All of these are pretty much going to be the same. I did grow up with the 90s X-Men animated series, and I did have a Magneto toy back then. Had some magnetic features and a removable helmet. I have good memories with that toy. I really enjoyed it. Knowing it was a villain was always fun to fight against Wolverine and Cyclops and all the other ones that I had. I didn't have very many, just a few, but the ones that I had were very memorable. With the packaging and the history out of the way, let's go ahead and open this fellow up, who, interestingly enough, is the only one without a Build-A-Figure piece. With our Master of Magnetism fresh out of the box, I have to say I really enjoy the look of this figure, the sculpt of the face that shows that sort of wisdom to the many years that he's spent, the striking dark purple against a darker red, the cape with the sort of bolts on there. I even like that he has his hair braided with little purple bands. I don't know, I just really like the colors of this figure. And I think that's something that X-Men has always had, is just this colorful comic book pop to it. For accessories, we have two magnetic power effects, which fit really well in the open hands that he has right out of the packaging. He also has two closed fists for when he needs to give you a bit of business. And of course, an alternate helmeted head. Of course, the magnetic effect worked well in either open or closed hands, and his cape is removable should you wish to remove it. And interesting, he also has a pig in his back, much like one of the previous DC Multiverse figures that I reviewed, but nothing seems to peg in there. His cape does not have a peg hole. An interesting detail to note is that his helmeted head has fully white eyes, like he has when he is using his powers. Good for combat posing, is what I'm saying. For display purposes, though, I believe I'll leave his head unhelmeted because it does make him feel more human and approachable than the helmeted head. Also, the helmet, for those of you who don't know, was made specifically to block Charles Xavier's psychic probes into his mind. But we are starting off this Build-A-Figure wave strong, even though we have not run into any Build-A-Figure pieces yet. Let's go ahead and get Magneto added to the shelf. And next is Rogue, a fan favorite, and I can't say that I'm any different, although I'm not yet sure how I feel about this design. It incorporates the right colors, but I don't know, something seems to be missing, but I will take a look more at that when we get her out of the packaging. For the packaging, we see it's got this lovely art on both sides, and a much better version of that lovely art on the back. Here's a little blurb, should you care to read about her in Age of Apocalypse. Without much to say about the packaging, let's go ahead and get it out of the way. And here's Rogue out of her packaging. She was always one of my favorite, if not my favorite, X-Men from the 90s animated series. I love the depth of character that, because of her powers, she is unable to actually touch anyone skin to skin, so it is something that she longs for, is that relationship, holding hands, hugging, kissing, all of that wonderful thing that you do when you find the right partner. It makes her very lonely. Being a teenager, unable to find romance, also makes her very, very relatable. When I looked at it in the packaging, I wasn't so sure about this outfit, but the more I look at it, the more it grows on me. I see she also has the studded sort of neck lining that Magneto has on his cape. I like the very baggy arms, as well as the oversized boots. It gives her sort of an awkward teenage look to her. I think due to the white in her hair, and the fact that she's usually portrayed or voiced by adult women makes people forget that she is, in fact, a teenager. So I think that this really adds to that sort of youthful innocence of hers. Also, the sort of one-piece aerobic leotard sort of suit worn over the green jumpsuit is just, it's very 80s and early 90s, and it's just, I love it. I love the greens, I love the yellows. I'm growing very, very fond of this Rogue's looks. I didn't mention posability with Magneto, and I don't think I'm going to mention it with the other figures. They all sort of have the same posability. I would only really bring it up if it was something lacking. I do like that with her hair, the way that it is, she has a full range of movement. I do like Rogue when she has flowing hair, but I think the cut short for different posability will come in really nice for the posability we'll get for some interesting action poses once I get her a proper stand. The only accessories she comes with are interchangeable hands. We of course have the open hands here. She also has these closed fists for when she needs to give you a bit of business. Now, through her mutant abilities to sort of absorb the life essence out of people, drain their life force away, she did absorb permanently the powers of Captain Marvel, so she can fly. She's super strong, and she's also super tough. So if Rogue wants to give you the business, she's probably the one. While playing around, I did find this leg band here is actually, it's loose, it's not really held on by anything other than friction, and her collar actually is pegged into her back, so if you wanted, you could remove her head and take this off. I don't think you can remove her legs in any way, and her foot is just a little bit too wide to take this off, so I wouldn't want to stretch it to try to get it off, but I suppose you could put it around her ankle if you wanted to make it look like it wasn't there, or if you really, really didn't like it, you could cut it off. But I honestly, I think that it looks fine. I think both accessories look good there. I'm just going to keep them both on her. As for the part she plays in the Build-A-Figure, she comes with the left arm of Colossus. That will do for Rogue for right now, so let's move on. Next on the list is Cyclops, normally the leader of the X-Men team from Xavier's school. This time seems to just be a warrior trying to do the best that he can. I'm not sure if he's maybe missing an eye. I only see one visor slot, but we'll take a look some more at that when we get the character open, although if you take a look at the artwork, I think it's pretty obvious that he has one eye covered, one eye open. I wonder what that is about. I really should read this comic. If they put out an omnibus, I would probably pick it up. Not really anything more to be seen, so let's go ahead and break Cyclops free of his packaging. And here's Cyclops out of his packaging. He was by far the hardest to stand up thus far. His joints are very stiff, and I'm not sure how I feel about the long-haired, wild look to Scott Summers. I do like the armored up arm, but it's just so strange that he has sort of just this flat blue jumpsuit and then some golden armor with it's got a lot of scratches, a lot of wear. I don't know, I suppose he's seen a lot of action. Cyclops was my least favorite of the X-Men when I was a child. I'm not sure if it's because in the old X-Men show he wasn't written that well, or he just wasn't someone who knew how to handle the character, although if I had to guess, I would say it's probably because as a child I loved Wolverine, and Wolverine and Cyclops did not get along, thus Cyclops was not my favorite. I would say color-wise, Cyclops is the most boring, and accessory-wise, he doesn't have any. His joints are stiff, and his foot, I feel I almost broke this foot just getting it to bend a little bit. This one's fine, it seems to move fine, but this one just... Oh, I don't want to force it, it doesn't want to move. I'll have to get in there and see what I can find, what might be happening with his foot there. I did have a Cyclops toy when I was younger. He was in a full blue suit with white stripes, and he had a button that if you pressed on the back, his visor would light up. It was a very cool toy. Since Cyclops doesn't come with any accessories, the only other thing to discuss is the Build-A-Figure part, which is the left foot, or leg, of Colossus. But alright, Scott, let's get you on the shelf. Sabretooth, another X-Men character I'm somewhat familiar with. He was in the old cartoon, not super often, but he did get enough spotlight for you to get to know about him and his relationship and rivalry with Wolverine. He was one of the big bads who followed Magneto. In this case, it appears he is actually a hero following Magneto, which is interesting. Apparently he was with Apocalypse, if you read here, and then betrayed him. very interesting. I really, really want to read this comic series. Marvel, please release another omnibus. I'm requesting very nicely that you do so. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get Sabretooth open. Thankfully, unlike Cyclops, Sabretooth was quite easy to stand up. I simply just flopped him down and he worked. And out of the package, we actually have a decision to make because he is incomplete out of the package. You see, he has a bit of a hole in the back of his head here and comes with 2 hair pieces. I guess we'll try one and then the other and see which we like. Although, honestly, looking at these, I just cannot tell what the difference is. Maybe it's just an extra in case one breaks? I'm not sure. If you take a look at the ends here, they look pretty much the same, so I'm not entirely sure what the difference is. Maybe it's just an extra in case one breaks. At any rate, we have a ponytail in place. So Sabretooth, I always knew him for wearing sort of the yellow and the dull browns and stuff, but what's interesting about this specific look is with his arms exposed, with the dark brown and the sort of orange color, it reminds me more of Wolverine's look with the orange and brown costume. We in the 90s, we knew him mostly for his yellow and blue with the black stripes, but before that he had this orange and brown, and it's just interesting that Sabretooth sort of wears a similar costume. This figure is massive, much taller than the others. I think we'll take a look at him next to Rogue. You can see he just absolutely towers over her. Thank you, Rogue. He has, of course, a metalled glove and an unmetalled glove. He has that same color we've seen on all of the heroic X-Men here with the studs. I think that's just I guess that's a team signature, sort of like the X that they used. Much like the other characters, it is just sort of pegged into his back there, so you can remove it if you don't like the look of it, if it's something that you want to do, but I don't think it would quite look complete without it. Unlike Cyclops, Sabretooth does have some accessories. We start with the open gripping hands, and some closed fists for punching, although with the claws on his fingers, I think Sabretooth is a little more dangerous with his hands open. And you do get an alternate head with a nice snarling face, which of course then explains why we had the second ponytail, is of course for the alternate head, and that should have been obvious to me, but it wasn't. Oh well. I did also just notice that the alternate head has fully whited out eyes, much like Magneto's did. Sabretooth was never my favorite villain, although I did find the fights between him and Wolverine to be very interesting, very entertaining, but I think I would like to see a heroic Sabretooth. Just the idea, is he like Logan? Is he sort of just gruff and in your face about it, or is he a really kind-hearted, sweet, gentle giant sort? I need to read this comic series. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to do that. But with the detail, the sculpt, the extra head, the extra hands, and everything else, I honestly am very happy to add Sabretooth to my shelf. But before I do so, just one quick note. His Build-A-Figure piece is Colossus's head, and of course the head comes with a bandana piece. To the shelf you go. Up next is Shadowcat, Catherine Pride, who often goes by Kitty or Kitty Pride. And she actually, interestingly, was going to be the lead teenage character in the X-Men animated series from the 90s, because it was originally going to be Kitty Pryde and the X-Men. It was pitched that way, but she was later not included in the show at all and instead swapped out for Jubilee. But it appears in the Age of Apocalypse, she is some sort of an assassin, so that's interesting. No assassin should be caged, so let's go ahead and help her out of this package. Out of the packaging, I have to say that I like, for an assassin, I like her attire, the very dull silver, dull metal with the dark blue, I think works very well. A lot of the top part of her is exposed. It would put people off guard, good for assassinations, because she looks like she's going to a cocktail party, sort of. I mean, like, if you took and put a dress down here and maybe remove these metal bands here, you couldn't tell the difference. It would just look like an interesting dress. I'm not sure how I feel about the head sculpt. I mean, the hair is nice, the detail is nice, but the expression, it doesn't look like she's about to assassinate someone, or like she's got the situation under control. It looks like she has a bad taste in her mouth. Maybe the filet mignon was undercooked. She does pretty well to stand on her own. She's not super stable. A lot of the females have very narrow feet, so it can be a little bit tough to get them standing, but she's not giving me the trouble that Cyclops was, although one of her arm joints, or elbow joints, is kind of stiff, and I just don't know about forcing it. I'm a little bit worried about breakage. I don't want to... Maybe off camera. Okay, I had a little heart attack, but I was able to bend the elbow without the joint breaking. Interestingly, though, her belt, which is kind of loose, it is a separate piece, it's not just sculpted on there, does have the X-Men emblem on there, so maybe the studded neck thing, or maybe she just couldn't wear one. It wouldn't look good with her assassin attire. For accessories, we do have some open hands, sort of an open jazz hand on one, and a gripping hand for the other. She also has some closed hand fists, and her wrist accessories can change out with these ones with sort of Wolverine claw-like tentacle extension. I'm not sure what they are. Are these like assassin weapons? Are they blades? Because they look like they're a little bent, but then Wolverine's claws are often a little bent. Either way, she has these. They're cat's claws, aren't they? That should have been obvious. Kitty Pryde, Shadowcat, they're cat's claws, and I look like a fool. Now, I'm not as familiar with Kitty Pryde since she wasn't featured in the 90s cartoon. She was in the 2000 movie for, I think, a frame or just one quick scene, and I believe she was more involved in shows like X-Men Evolution that came after the film was very successful, which was a little after I was watching cartoons at the time. I had my phases, don't worry about it. Her powers, for those who don't know, is she is able to turn herself untouchable. She can pass through solid objects, which would make her a very, very effective assassin for a plethora of reasons, ways that she could use her powers. Her Build-A-Figure piece is Colossus's middle section. His butt comes with her, the butt. And while I can't say that she's my favorite so far, I really, really like her costume, I like her look, I really enjoy this figure for what it is, and I'm happy to add it to the shelf, so let's go ahead and do that. Almost, but not quite last, is Iceman. Iceman was a villain in the 90s cartoon show, although he didn't show up that often. In the 2000 movie, he was a heroic character. He was, a student. He had a friendship and somewhat of a romance with Rogue, and I guess he was sort of the Gambit of that series in that way. The main thing that I remember about him from the movie, though, is that does anyone remember Animorphs, a book series? There was a live-action show done in either the late 90s, mid-90s, something like that, and the actor who played Iceman in the movie also played Jake in the Animorphs series. Not that anyone need know or care about that. The box, of course, is the same fare. Great, beautiful artwork that's mostly covered up. I wish we could see the whole thing. And of course includes a blurb, should you care to read it. It does appear that he is a hero in the X-Men Age of Apocalypse storyline. I really, really need to read this book. Here's Iceman out of his packaging. Was a little bit hard to get him to stand without a bit of a lean. Not sure if that's just because he has bare feet and they're a little bit, footish. But stand him we did, and I have to say I really enjoy the look of this figure. It is all just transparent, translucent blue, but it works really well. There are different shades of blue. This is a different shade than this, which is a different shade than this. There's this nice white clouding that they put in there. All this icicle detail looks just fantastic. I wish there was a little bit more going on with maybe clothing or accessories. He does appear to be running around in his birthday suit, as it were, although luckily he was gentlemanly enough to cover up the important bits, although I do believe that's some cheekage going on there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't have an Iceman toy when I was younger. I don't really know a lot about the character outside of that he's normally portrayed as a bad guy, and anyone with ice powers can, of course, be very dangerous. I like the look of this character, but I just find myself lacking with a lot of things to say. The sculpt is great, the look is great. I mean, look at the icicles that sort of form on his hand. His fist, just a little bit's kind of running off there. This toy has a great look. I just find myself struggling for things to say about the character since I don't have much of a history with him, but I will say that thus far the character, he does look good. He's very interesting. Let's get to his accessories though. Of course, we start with an open hand and a closed fist, but he also gets these great ice claw hands. Good weapons, interesting use of his powers. I think that the only thing that's throwing me off with this is just because even though it looks great, he could have used a belt. He could have used maybe a little bit of a shirt or something. You could see the ice like poking through the pants, something like that. Just some little thing to set it off just from naked ice person. Even his expression, even his face, it's expressionless. There's no mouth, there's only a hint of a nose, there's nothing but whites to his eyes. A very eerie but interesting character. And his Build-A-Figure piece is the right arm of Colossus. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with him posing wise, but for now, let's get him onto the shelf. And last up of these still packaged figures, we have Marvel's Legion. I know nothing about this person. Apparently this is Charles Xavier's son, who has powerful telepathic abilities, but is also mentally unstable. I only know this because of the blurb on the back. The character does sound like he has an interesting history. I'd like to get to know a little bit more about him, but as it stands, nothing really stands out for me to talk about for the packaging, so let's just get rid of that. And here's Legion out of the box. It looks like costume-wise he's wearing perhaps an altered hospital outfit, some light pants, light shirt that you would see from someone who was at a facility receiving help for their unfortunate condition. Much like Iceman, he is also barefoot, which did make him a little bit challenging to stand, but I seem to have found a neutral pose that works well enough. I like the design of the hair. I think that shows just his opposing state to Charles Xavier, who's always bald, whereas Legion has a full head of hair, but it is sticking straight up, sort of like an old broom. It's an interesting look, an interesting design. For accessories, he of course has his open hands, and he also has closed fists, though as a telepath I struggle to imagine when he would use them. I do wish I had more to say about him, I really, really do, but I'm just with a character that I have no knowledge of whatsoever. Even the other characters that I'm not super familiar with, I've heard of, I know about, I know nothing about Legion. So the character himself, he looks fine, the details fine. I think that the outfit is most likely just a result of him seeking help for his unfortunate condition. But once again, I find myself at a loss of things to say, since I just don't have any connection to the character. I bought him strictly because of the Build-A-Figure piece, which is Colossus's right leg. So let's go ahead and get our telepathic friend, enemy, I'm not even sure, onto the shelf. And before we can get the last figure on the shelf looked at, we have to build our unfortunately disassembled friend. And Colossus is together. He is massive. He is the Build-A-Figure of this wave. He is the reason to buy this wave. So does he live up to that? Let's find out. For scale, he's about a half a head taller than Sabretooth, who himself is also pretty big, but towers over Rogue. She barely makes it up past his elbow. She's about at bicep level. And while he wasn't super difficult to get together, I did struggle a bit with the head. Definitely jammed my thumb a little bit. Costume-wise is really interesting. He has these little tight shorts. He has these boots that you can see from the straps. He has armor in front of. He has armored up arms with, I guess these are leather straps, but they sort of look like Batman spikes to me. He has this big armored shoulder pauldron, once again with the studded look, so I suppose he's an X-Men. You can also see the belt. Interestingly enough, these two pieces are removable, so let's go ahead and take a look at him like that. And with the shoulder armor and the belts removed, you get a real good look at his musculature, how it works, the corded steel that goes all along his body. It's a really interesting look. I'm not sure how well it's really showing up on camera, but the shininess of this figure, it's done really well. It's shiny, so it's metallic, but it's also somewhat dull, which I think would fit in with the Age of Apocalypse. And he does have a little bit of a plastic flap sticking up here. We'll see about getting that off later. I would just take a quick knife there, take it right out, X-Acto knife. However, I think the completed look is going to be how I will display the figure. It is the best look in my opinion. It is interesting they decided to cover up half his face with this sort of bandana mask. It's just interesting choices. I'd love to hear about the character design, but accessories, he really only has the one accessory, unless you want to count these as accessories, but he has his open hands, and of course a couple of closed fists, which is very fitting from the expression. This Colossus is ready to tear someone apart. He's ready to set straight some injustices. Unless, of course, he's a villain, which I doubt because of the... I need to read this comic. I need to read it. There's no way around it. I need to read it. But I will say, overall, the character is very worth the price of admission, especially because you can find these characters, usually this Build-A-Figure wave, is on sale for pretty cheap, either bundled together or the figure separately. I don't think I paid over $12 for a single figure. But let's go ahead and get ready for the group shot. There's the whole wave all together. They look great standing as a team, and this wave really surprised me. I honestly didn't think I'd like very many of these figures. I honestly bought it for two reasons. Number one, I really wanted the Build-A-Figure Colossus. I think he looks amazing. I think it's a great angry take on a character that's usually very calm. And of course, because of the price point, these figures can be found very cheap separately. They're usually bundled together decently cheap. I think I've seen this entire set as low as about $65 for all 7 figures. But I was really surprised. The Magneto was a standout for me. Colossus, of course. Sabretooth, I was surprised at how much I liked it. I didn't think I'd like the Rogue as much as I ended up liking her. And Shadowcat was also a surprise. I really didn't think I'd care about her, but I really enjoyed the look and how she looks with the team. It's amazing. Iceman, I honestly thought I'd like a lot more than I did. Just, I don't know, something about him just doesn't pop to me. I think there's something missing with him. Cyclops, the biggest thing that's a downer to me, I know the costume they can't really help. I didn't really enjoy that design, but they have to work with what's in the comic. But I think a lack of accessories is a real problem. I could have done without Legion, but that's just because I don't know anything about him. But the biggest thing with this line of any of those figures is just the accessories. You take a look at Magneto. He has an alternate head, alternate hands, and effect pieces. Now you think, perhaps they did that because he doesn't have a Build-A-Figure piece. But Sabretooth has an alternate head and alternate hands, and even extra ponytail pieces that they didn't have to mold and make separate. It could have just been attached to his head. But he still does have a Build-A-Figure piece. I think Cyclops deserved open hands, and I think he deserved an optic blast effect, or an alternate head. I think Iceman deserved an alternate head, maybe a non-icy head, and some ice effects. Rogue absolutely deserved an alternate head. She has alternate hands, yes, but that's it. Shadowcat definitely deserved an alternate head. I think either a koi smile, the smirk, the evil smirk she has on her packaging would have been great, but even just a calm face, a smile, a reassuring smile. She's an assassin, she gets close to people. But those are minor nitpicks. Again, if you take a look at all of these figures together, they're amazing. I am so happy to add them to the collection. Thank you so much for sticking through as I reviewed 8 entire figures in one video. That's a lot, and I appreciate it. I also want to thank you for taking this next step in my journey as a toy collector, building my first collection. As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of each other. Simply, take care.